Oh my God! I'm Bender!
Watch me build this coin-operated Bender bank on today's Filament Friday. So I started with this Bender bust from Thingiverse designed by user Cerberus333. I imported it into Tinkercad using the import feature. I chose the file benderhead2.stl, clicked import, and it loaded it in. And here was Bender. So the next step was to resize Bender. So I just grabbed the corner and started to pull it out, but then I hit the shift key so everything went in proportion. And then I just raised it up until it was just under 350 millimeters. So once I had it in Tinkercad, I clicked on it and turned it into a hole so I could see inside of it. And as I suspected, there's a flaw right here behind the eyes, a big gap. Now Angus at Maker's Muse showed how to fix this in one of his videos by using Mesh Mixer, and I'm going to show you how I fix it in Tinkercad a lot more crude. I just took a box and put it in there to fill the gap, and it comes out just a little bit, but didn't really affect things, so that worked. Grouped it together, and then I had to put this hole in the center of it because when it imported as a solid element, and I need this thing hollow. So then I put a whole box at the halfway point to chop off the top, grouped it together, and now I had the bottom half of Bender so it would fit on my MAKERFRONT printer because I don't have one of those monsters that the 3D printing nerd has. So I had my bottom half, and now I went and did the same thing for the top half. And in this case I put a little slot in there for a coin, and then I had to hollow this out. So that I used a cylinder and then a half a sphere on top of that, and that's how I formed the hole. Grouped that all together, and I had the top of Bender. So I imported it into Simplify 3D, and here it is, and you can see that it just barely fits within the build area. So I sized it perfect. Then I went to Edit Process Settings, and I chose a layer height of 0.3 millimeters. I don't need this super detailed. And then I took off the vase mode that I'd used previously and used a 4 outline. And then 15% fill, but I did need a wrap. This thing had a nice flat bottom. But I did leave 20 layers. Every 20 layers a solid diaphragm is printed. That makes it pretty strong. Now I used 195 degree temperature for the PLA that I'm using, and everything looked good. Updated the profile, and then I said okay and clicked on prepare to print. Now this took a few seconds, but still was pretty fast. Simplify 3D is always quick relative to any other slicer that I've used, and it said this thing was going to take 10 hours and 43 minutes, and believe it or not, it's at 188 meters of plastic. It just doesn't seem right, but whatever. That's what it said, and so then I was ready to send it off to the MAKERFRONT printer. Now the filament I used was some leftover DaVinci PLA filament that I couldn't use in my DaVinci 1.0 because the extruder wouldn't accept it. So I've had this for like a year. It's kind of old, but I had to use it up. So here's Bender all finished on the MAKERFRONT, and I think this is the tallest I've ever printed on this machine. You can see I got very little space left. I did get a little shifting right here, right below the eyes, like a 2 millimeter shift this way forward. I don't know what that is. I'll have to check on it because everything seems solid. I also got a little bit of shifting on the top half, but at a different point, so it's not consistent. But overall, I think it came out pretty good. The material itself is smooth for the most part, but it's rough in other spots. So I'm going to have to sand it if I want to paint it, and sand it quite a bit. But overall, I think it came out good. The bottom of it is really kind of weak. The plastic was not flowing properly, so I had to adjust the flow rate. But it's just the bottom. Not a big deal. So I'm happy with the way it turned out. So now let me show you the rest of this project. So here's all the pieces I have to make Bender work. I've got an Arduino shield. I've got a Wave Shield from Adafruit. And this was a kit that I had bought many years ago for a project, never used it. So I used it for here. I had these string of leftover LEDs that my wife gave me. And I had an infrared detector right here. I actually built this board many years ago for some robotics and servo sensing, so I just put the sensor at a 90-degree angle so it can trap anything or sense anything that comes through that hole. And then I put sound bites of Bender talking in a wave format on an SD card for the Wave Shield, and then just a 9-volt battery. And then I used a sample program that Adafruit had for the Wave Shield, and I modified it for the Arduino, so when the switch triggered, it would turn on the Wave Shield and also the LEDs. So let me show you how this all comes together and how it works. So here's the sensor that I used to sense the coin, and it's an infrared detector. One side is an infrared LED and the other side is a detector. And really all it does is it shoots out light and looks for a reflection. So if you got the LED on one side and the detector on the other side, the LED shoots light up and it'll keep going if nothing is there. But once an object comes in front of it, like a coin, then the light will reflect off and come back down into the detector. And once the detector senses that, it sends a signal to the Arduino. Now I thought I'd also mention this is the same technology that's used in the DaVinci printers, only what they have is a cutout here, and the light actually goes through from the LED to the detector. And then when the carriage comes in with an arm and blocks that thing, that's when it sends a signal to the Arduino and tells the carriage to stop. Okay, so I got everything inside, and I actually just used some duct tape to hold the LEDs right here by his mouth. And then wired everything up, including these amplified speakers. I plugged this into the Wave Shield because if I can put a speaker on it, it's just not super loud and my microphone's not going to pick it up. So I decided to just use some amplified speakers, that way you can hear it. So now, when you take a coin and you drop it in the slot,
What prize do I get? Cash? Thank you!
he says, "What prize do I get? Cash? Thank you."
What prize do I get? Cash? Thank you!
I love how he talks. It worked out better than I even hoped. I could have done something with the eyes too, but I kind of put too much plastic there, so it wasn't easy to get LEDs to it. But it's working pretty good.
What prize do I get? Cash? Thank you!
So there you go, a talking Bender with a light up mouth. If you like this project, give it a thumbs up. If you like my channel and you want to see more projects like this, please subscribe. That way I know you're watching and you want to see more. Also, if you're interested in getting a MAKERFRONT, he's now offering a 5% discount to all my viewers. So I'll put a code down here. You just enter that code and you get 5% off. And he's already made some improvements based on my suggestions. The nuts are now pushed in, so you don't have to do that. And all the rods, when you fit them in, are all pre-cut, so you don't have to do any sanding or grinding. That's going to save probably at least an hour in the build alone, and maybe more, because that was really a frustration point. And he's trying to do some more improvements that I recommended, but anyway, if you're interested in getting a MAKERFRONT, I am happy with the way it printed. I hated the assembly, but I like the way this thing prints. 5% off for my viewers. So that's it. And if you want to help support the channel for projects like this, $1 a month to my Patreon account goes a long way. And if you give us $1 a month, Bender will tell you.
What prize do I get? Cash? Thank you!
See you next time on Filament Friday.